Alrighty, good morning everyone. We're going to get started with our pre-market analysis here for the S&P 500 futures market. So let's jump to our ultra high time frames here and see what's going on. Go to our quarterly here, and really nothing has changed for the last few weeks or months that we've been watching this. Same thing on the monthly. So both of the upper end of our ultra high time frames have no indications of exhaustion in the current push. When we get to our weekly, that's when we got our first indication off of the previous weekly candle that closed on Friday. We did get that first indication of some potential bearishness, but then we opened with the new week and actually pushed another 10 points higher. And then I think we just pushed another 10 points higher in the overnight. So we're now about 20 points above where we had that bearish indication. And so the thing is that on RVI here, if I could just exaggerate this a little bit, refocus this, let's see if I can pull this down. We are so high up here on the weekly. You can see we really have never been below 60 on RVI, which is pretty bullish. The only times that we were below 60 was during some really extreme sell-offs. So pretty interesting. But what I want to do here is bring this up and just show you currently, as far as price goes, we have pushed to these new highs, but the indicator has not been able to push and break the high right around 76. So we do still have some bearish indications on the weekly right now. Despite pushing higher, RVI has not pushed to break 76 here, and so we still have some bearish indications, keeping in mind that we do have the whole week for this candle to develop and then close, and for this signal to actually find its spot. So we have a little bit of time for it to develop, but right now we do have some exhaustion patterns happening at the moment. On our daily, remember yesterday we talked about the bullish indication that we got off the low of Friday's candle. And since then, we did kind of, yesterday, remember, was kind of sideways. We stayed within the previous daily high, the previous daily low of that previous candle from Friday. And then right at the end of the day, we just shot up, and then in the overnight continued to push here again, another 10 points higher from that previous all-time high we made yesterday. But as we push here on the daily, you can see that the daily RVI is also pushing here. So we definitely, this all seems to be looking pretty good right now. Now you could make a similar argument here that the high we did make all the way back on May 28th, we are a little bit lower on RVI here, but because this is a little bit further back than I really would like to look, I still do think that we have a pretty strong pattern going on here in the local area. Ideally, this RVI will push just another 3 or 4 points higher, and we won't have to worry about that indication. But right now, we could make an argument for some bearishness off those previous highs on RVI. But in the local area, everything looks good. We don't necessarily have signs of exhaustion. And then, of course, we do have this candle, which will have the rest of today to form. And so this signal could change by the time this candle closes at the end of the day here. Right now, it looks pretty bearish. It looks like we pushed up, tried to continue pushing higher, and now they're pulling back, and we could even pull back a little bit deeper here. So right now, the daily, and at least in the local area, looks pretty strong right now. Not necessarily any indications of exhaustion. Of course, this most recent daily candle has a little time to develop, so this picture could change. On our 4-hour, the only indication that I'm seeing right now is a bearish exhaustion pattern off of the overnight high. And that level is exactly at 42.58 quarter. So we do have some bearishness off 58 quarter. Again, if we jump to the higher time frame, you could make an argument all the way back from the May 28th high that there's a bit of exhaustion there, but then we're jumping through all the other indications that we have. So I don't necessarily like that. And the weekly does have the potential of some exhaustion. So right now we are starting to see somewhat of a story here of a little bit of exhaustion as we push. And it could be a similar situation where all of these indications line up and we get just a little bit of a pullback. In fact, arguably some type of shallow pullback from the higher time frame perspective, and then it continues to run here. The 60-minute also had that bearish indication off the overnight high. And then in this local area right now, there's really nothing going on to comment on. You could kind of get into this very small divergence indication where price did push to this slightly higher high, and I mean it's very, very slight. We're talking about a quarter, one tick higher, and the RVI did kind of flatten out, if not go a little bit lower there. So it's maybe somewhat of a bearish pattern there as well. Really no bullish indications off the lows until you get back to that 42.21 quarter from yesterday, where we had pretty much every time frame giving us a bullish indication, including that daily candle from the day before. And then we do arguably from the last major swing low there have this bullish indication off the previous daily low here at 24 quarter. So these are all things we want to keep in mind as we come into this morning. So far it's looking more so like we do have somewhat of a bearish case off of the overnight high. I'm looking at the previous daily low here, and let's see, the low 25, the low 24.50. So this did push up technically by a few ticks, and this pushed up, so can't really make a bullish argument on that time frame. And then same thing here, we pushed up but also pushed up. So really the only bullish indication right now that we're getting off of the previous daily low is from the 60-minute perspective. So that's where we are on our ultra high and our high time frames. So let's go to our intermediate and see if they're giving us any other indications here. So here's that previous daily low, and we do have a decent bullish pattern here. At least from all those previous swing lows, we have this push up. So we have the 60-minute and the 30-minute are basically getting into our intermediate time frames, all giving us bullishness there. Although arguably we've now pushed from 24.50 to 58, so got a pretty decent push out of that. We do have the bearish indication off the high, so we don't necessarily have a really nice clear case this morning, and it's kind of been like this for a few days if I remember correctly. We did have one morning where we had a really clear bullish case, and then we got a really nice bull rally that morning. And then for the last few mornings, it's been somewhat of kind of a tug of war between both sides. So right now we do have a pretty clear bearish case off the highs. Pretty much every time frame from, you could argue, the weekly. The daily not as much, but the weekly, the 4-hour, the 1-hour, and now the 30-minute all do have that bearish case off the overnight high. And then you can see on the 30-minute here, as we get more resolution on the lows here, there was somewhat of a bullish indication on this pullback in the overnight session. So we'll have to watch that. And then on our 10-minute here, we got that same indication off of that low that we did on the 30-minute. And then off the overnight high, definitely still an argument that could be made here for some bearish signals there. So pretty much every time frame is giving us a bearish picture at the overnight high, which also happens to be our new all-time high. Outside of that, we do have some bullish indications below us, but not as much of a confluence as we do for the bear signals. So we're going to have to stick with somewhat of a bearish case, assuming we can stay below the overnight high, which happens to be 42.58 quarter. So let me go ahead and mark 58 quarter here. If we can stay below that, then we will have a nice clear respect of that signal. Let me just make this a white color. So that is our all-time high that we have a lot of bearish signals from. Now if we jump to the 3-minute just to confirm the signal from the all-time high here, we do also have a pretty clear bearish divergence there. So every single time frame gave us bear signals at that one exact